All right, buddy, let's start with this. I said it's a day of anxiety in America. You know, in this league, like, you're from Boston, so your team always wins. But the way it usually works in the NFL, you have these rebuild years, but you know if you get the coach right and you think you got the quarterback right, you can at least see the horizon. You're like, okay, we're getting close. I watched the Giants last night, and I'm like, that's the best loss they've had in 3 years. I think they got the right coach. Like, I thought that's as good a loss as a bad football team can have, right?
Yeah, going into it, I mean, when you look at Tampa, I feel like what's been lost in this Brady story, which is it's an unbelievable story. He's been lighting it up until last night. But that Tampa Bay defense was incredible. I mean, they're the best defense in the NFL coming in. They have all the speed all over the place. It was actually a really good defense last year that was put in impossible situations with Jameis. So to have the Giants have it come down to the last possession, I was really impressed. I mean, it wasn't as amazing as the first half execution as New England battling COVID and the Chiefs a few weeks ago, where I was like, I can't believe the Pats are even in this game. But you're right, like a coach, and I'm not sure if Judge is long-term going to be the guy, but at least in that primetime spotlight, hey, can you actually compete with maybe the best team in your conference? I don't think anybody expected this thing to be close, so I was really impressed.
Yeah. By the way, you were the first to really touch on this that I know, is that why most people in Boston or from Boston were worshiping at the altar of Belichick. About 6 years ago, you and I had a conversation, probably over a Heineken, in which you said, they're not that great in the draft. In fact, they're terrible drafting skill people. And my takeaway is I would sell everything I have today. You got some equity from the fans. They got to be sellers today. They got to I don't care who the quarterback is. They're the slowest football team in the league offensively. Like, if I said to you tomorrow, do you think people in Boston acknowledge Belichick can't draft offensive skill people? He just can't.
They're acknowledging it now. It took them 8 years, but they finally warmed up to the idea that Bill is not great at drafting. He just isn't. I don't know who else. Like, you know what? I made this joke the other day. I go, if somebody else were a GM and had his draft record the last few years, his next job would be coming up on Get Up. You know what I mean? He would be like the next in-studio analyst because he wouldn't have a job. Now, let me also say this. Any conversation about Belichick that starts with, because of the season, be like, well, I don't think he's really all that. And this guy might be a little overrated. Like, it's just a conversation stopper, all right? He's an incredible coach. I understand the Brady part of it, but he's been incredible. But I don't know if it's the slow bleed of all of the personnel people that left. I remember when they lost Pioli. I mean, that was years and years ago. We're talking well over a decade. And I thought, oh, man, that's a blow to this front office. And somebody who really knew was like, nah, not really. Like, Bill has a plan. He tells everybody to follow the plan and then go ahead and execute. But, I mean, he's continually lost these people over and over again. He's been awful for stretches at corner, which is weird because that's like kind of his origin as a coach. He's great at getting an offensive lineman here or there. But if you look back at the Pro Bowls, and I'll ask you this, you can look at this stuff. It's all available on Google. If you go through his last drafts, going all the way back to like 2012, where are the studs? Where are the studs? There aren't any. Chandler Jones, Dante Hightower, those are the last studs. I'll give you Thuney at guard. But, I mean, that's a lot of whiffs. And when you have a Hall of Fame quarterback, he can make that stuff disappear a little bit. And it's happened at other places. It's happening with Russell Wilson in Seattle. It happened with Peyton Manning in Denver until Peyton then had to be carried by that defense. But that's why these special quarterbacks are so special, because they make up for all your mistakes. Yeah. And Belichick's made a lot of mistakes.
Yeah, hold on. Let me write that down. You said it was called Google. All right, get that.
It's all available.
It's all available. Okay, so you look at your environment. I'm a coach in the NFC West. Russell Wilson never gets hurt, and he's great. Jared Goff may not be great, but he's always available with McVay, and he takes a beat. He never got hurt, and he never hurt. Kyler Murray, hard to get a shot at and explosive. I have Jimmy Garoppolo. He's inconsistent, and he's always hurt. Hurt in New England, hurt again. I honestly believe, Ryan, when I saw that story yesterday, I'm like, people make decisions before they make them public. He's done. Like, the long-range stuff for Garoppolo this morning, I feel like Kyle is like, I'm in a division with Goff, Kyler, and Russell. I got to go get somebody. Like, I honestly think this morning, he and Lynch are like, okay, let's keep this between us. Like, we're moving on. That doesn't seem like a hot take, right?
No, I don't think it is. Now, I would put kind of Goff and Garoppolo in the same category, not because of the health part of it, but more because of who you have running these offenses. Like, I believe McVay and Kyle Shanahan think they can pretty much put anybody back there and they're going to figure out how to way to run their offense. Okay. And that's why they're so special. And that's why they both became head coaches at such a young age. But the Garoppolo fascination was body type, that hip thrusting that I kept reading about all the time. They're like, man, nobody really throws it that way. But they front loaded that contract. They wanted credit for paying him like $40 million plus in cash in the first year. And I go, this guy started like 7 games. And in those games where they went undefeated with San Francisco, he actually wasn't that great. So for me, this is just a longer continuation of somebody who physically looks the part, but doesn't always make great decisions. The numbers aren't that great. The defensive roster last year, that was the best defense in the NFL. He threw 8 passes in the NFC title game, and you can tell by the play calling. Colin, when I look at quarterbacks, I'll go, okay, 3rd and 8, do they trust this guy? And it's clear he, among another handful of quarterbacks in the league, like I don't even know if the play callers even trust him as much as they should. So they front-loaded that deal so much. If they want to move on from him, they can. But he has to be healthier first to have any kind of market if he's going to another team.
Okay, so Tua. I don't have the size. People say size doesn't matter for quarterbacks. Yes, it does. It does matter. I'm sorry, it does. Most of the great quarterbacks are big. If they're not, they have a wiggle. They can move. Fran Tarkenton, Vic. Russell Wilson, they can move.
Fran had small wrists, though.
Oh, he did. Oh, thanks for that. Appreciate that. He was a scout. Ryan was scouting back then for the Vikings back in the 40s. But there,
we got on Fran.
But there is one exception to all this. Breeze. So you're basically telling me for Tua to work, he's got to be one guy in league history. And I'm like, that's trying to land a 747 on a quarter. In the history of the league, the only guy without size, a big arm who doesn't wiggle a lot, is Breeze. And I watch Tua, and I'm like, where's the it? Like, right? Like, what's the...
No. Do we disagree on this one?
Really?
Wait a minute, you're off Tua?
I'm off. I'm off.
When did this happen?
Last week.
It was the last week? So you waited before he played to write off? Then you're like, okay.
Yeah.
Look, he wasn't great. They didn't need him. The Rams made monumental turnovers in that game, and that's kind of why that game was decided that way. But I am not off of Tua. I understand what you're saying, smaller guys. Like, it is kind of funny. Like, hey, Russell's a little smaller, Breeze is a little smaller, Kyler's a little small. So what do we now want? Small quarterbacks? I mean, that seems kind of ridiculous. I don't think anybody's going to say, hey, let's get smaller guys in here. Is Kellen Moore still got some bullets in there? So I love his decision-making. I love the way he read the field. I love the way he manipulated safeties. I love his athleticism. All of those things I saw for real in person at Alabama, and I'm not going to write him off just because he's left-handed and small here at this point. So I resist your position on that one.
He's a resistor. All right, Russillo, it's great seeing you, buddy. Podcast at The Ringer, the Ryan Russillo podcast. Thanks for coming on the show.
All right, thanks, Colin.
All right. Coming up next, I'm going to drive you nuts again. I'm going to drive you absolutely nuts. I'm going to drive you crazy, especially if you're under 40. I'm just going to drive you crazy next. But I'm right. Do you feel like some companies gouge you all year long and then offer a Black Friday special, Cyber Monday deal? Wouldn't it be nice to work with a company that's got your back all year? Pure Talk understands how to treat a customer. The CEO is a U.S. veteran, understands what it's like to serve. If you're stuck with subpar service and overpriced plans from Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile, go to the Pure Talk family. Save $400 a year. Pure Talk only charges you for the data you need. They're on the exact same towers. Don't have to change your phone number. Get the same great coverage. Unlimited talk, unlimited text, and 2 gigs of data. Just $20 a month. In fact, I'll give you additional savings. If you grab your phone and dial pound 250 and say Colin Cowherd, I'll give you another 50% off your first month. Dial pound 250 and say Colin Cowherd. Pure Talk USA.